Okay, so the next one I want to share and just my little discoveries is lavender. We've moved on in beverages. Where I am right now and doing these, it's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and it's cold because I'm in the Northeast. And so I love to do a little Nisha. And if you're from the Northeast, you'll be like, oh, she's hooked. When I first moved here, I thought sparkling water was disgusting. And people drink this like a soda just straight out the can. I'm going, you guys are gross. What is that? Now I love it. I'm like, oh my gosh, they've indoctrinated me. So I do a little Nisha, a little sparkling water, and I throw a nitro in there just to give me a little pick-me-up. Okay, so lavender, interesting. And I didn't say this before, so I apologize. But my friends didn't completely leave me feeling like a dope. That was really more my issue. But they gave me a card. It's about this big, about that long. And it had like all these ailments. And then on the other side, let's say a cold. And then over here, it would say like this oil. And one day my daughter, let me think, she must have been 8. Maybe, I don't know. She had a funky ass case of pink eye. And I thought, oh, I have oils. I heard oils work for stuff. And I look on my chart and I was like, okay, well, I wonder if I have the oil they're talking about. So I look and it says lavender. I'm like, perfect. And in my mind, again, I'm going back to, they told me to put it on the feet for health. That didn't make any sense to me, but okay, we'll do that. But then I'm like, well, I know where to put this because the pink eye is in her eye, right? So why not? And I'm like, hey, Eden, okay, come here. So I do the lavender and I'm like, I put it like right in there and just get it real good. And then I do the other one, put it real good. And it was like this. Gah! And I was not always a very nice mom. And I'm like, what is your problem? She goes, it's burning. Mom, my eyes are on fire. And I'm like, honey, that means it's working. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, Bactine, right? You guys don't, like, you get a scrape and your mom or dad will be like, psh, and it's just like, it's burning. And I'm like, yeah, that means it's working. We're all good. So I'm telling them, like, honey, it means it's working. Like, just deal with it. Don't be such a wuss. And she's like starting to have some emotional challenges. She's like, it's really burning. So I said, okay, fine, wash it out. The oils, we're not going to do oils on you. So I had to wash it out in the sink. Because again, I'm going back to chemistry lab. Someone gets something in their eye, you flush it out with cold water. Except oil and water don't mix. Apparently I forgot that from chemistry and biology. Okay, genius, here we go. It's hurting worse. And I just had to let her write it out because I didn't know what to do. Does that happen to you? So what I learned is that if you have an oil in your eye or if it burns, then you can put a little bit of coconut oil or olive oil or any kind of like fatty, greasy oil because it'll actually pull it out and it'll cool it down and stop the burning. That information would have been helpful. So if you have 4 children, or if you know someone with 4 small children and you're giving them oils and you're gifting it to them, please give them a warning and say, hey, heads up. If something burns, if they get it in their eye or it starts to feel uncomfortable, make sure you have some coconut oil, some olive oil, something on hand. Just go slap it on before you wash it off because that's actually going to make it feel worse. Well, heads up. Lavender is good. What I learned, I would hear this. I'd see it posted on social media. Lavender, the Swiss Army knife, which means absolutely nothing to me. And I crack up that I would say it because I'm like, as I'd say it out loud when I started teaching classes, I'm like, hell if I know what a Swiss Army knife does. I don't camp. I'm not very outdoorsy. I mean, I love the outdoors, but I also like being in. If I have to use any sort of tool while I'm outside, that's the God's telling me it's time to go inside. Make sense? So if I'm out somewhere and someone's like, oh, do you have a Swiss Army knife? I'm like, oh, time to go home. We need something, and I don't want to have a tool. So if you told me, and I should just preface all of these segments with this. I was just trying to fit in. There's this like sort of crowd mentality that I wasn't a part of that crowd, and I really wanted to fit in. I was already freaking broke. I didn't have any money to buy these oils. They had to gift it to me. So now I'm feeling weird because I couldn't afford it, so I felt like a pity case, right? Then I didn't really fit in because I didn't buy all the same foods. I couldn't afford that. I wasn't in that crowd, so I certainly wasn't going to ask a stupid question. I kept asking stupid questions. I just didn't know. And so with lavender, like when they would say the Swiss Army knife, I certainly wasn't going to ask, well, what does that mean? Because, oh my God, if I had one more person look at me sideways or give me the hairy eyeball because I'm asking a question. So I'm like, oh, I know Swiss Army knife means you can use it for anything. Like, that's sort of the joke. And I'm like, for anything? And, there was a list of 1,001 uses that you can use lavender for. Like, it's an industrious little oil there. So again, I'm back to my book, and I'm looking, and some French scientist, Rene, blah, 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 I can't say his last name, and maybe you can if you speak French. I took French in high school. You wouldn't know it. So he was the first to discover lavender's ability to promote tissue regeneration. So now I'm super interested. I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And it speeds wound healing because he burned his arm. It says he burned his arm in his lab. And, like an accident. And he grabbed lavender and put it on. I would love to have known that story. What thought he had to be able to just have that presence of mind to go, oh, I'm going to try this after I've been severely burned. Me, I'd be like, wrap it up, take me out. All kinds of anti-properties, right? And then there's this laundry list of uses, as you can imagine. There's a lot of fragrance influences as well, calming, relaxing, balancing, both physical and emotional. I gotta be honest, I started reading that kind of stuff, and when I first smelled lavender, I was like, I hate this oil. This oil is disgusting. I didn't even like lavender lotions. So I've heard Young Living people say, well, if you say to me, oh, I don't like lavender, if I try to offer you an oil, and you say, I don't like lavender, I'm supposed to say, well, yeah, because you're probably used to perfume lavender. If you had said that to me and I was comfortable in my own skin, where I wasn't comfortable in my own skin back then, and people say, well, you just don't like lavender. I didn't ever actually like lavender perfume either. That smells like old lady. And I didn't like lavender oil for a long time. I would use it begrudgingly, and I'm like, I hate this oil. It smelled mean. I didn't like it. This oil has some emotional components that I didn't know till years later were very triggering for me. So what I've realized now is, man, if somebody has an aversion to an oil, like, just pump the brakes. That's not their oil. They shouldn't use it at all. At all. Is what I've learned here, there's so many anti-this, anti-that. Like, if you need lavender, surely there's something else that you can use if that is triggering. Or if you're like, I really need to use lavender, pair it with something that cuts that scent, right? So that the aroma isn't making you feel triggered, as it were. So, lavender. It's great. Again, this is like 2 pages of research, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 cited articles just on different properties. So as a neodepressive, as an antimicrobial, more agitated behavior, severe dementia, with a controlled placebo, so there's all kinds of different articles that they're citing. I thought, all right, this is really cool. And then the last thing I will share about lavender is, You know, I've had friends buy lavender at Whole Foods for, you know, $6, right, for this oil. And then this one's 23. So they're like, Jen, I'm not buying your lavender, dude. It's like, I mean, cost prohibitive. I feel you. I got you. I stay out of your wallet. I totally get it. And then I learned that lavandin is actually sometimes called lavender. Now, lavandin is a little pesky because it actually will create third-degree burns if you put it on a burn. I didn't know that. You probably didn't know that. Maybe you did. I don't know. So it's just it's things like that now as I learn. I got kids. That's no secret. We'll pause.